If you Google the phrase intuitive eating, you will get all sorts of results. And a lot of those results will even contradict each other. So if you're new to intuitive eating and you hop on Google to learn more about it, you might find yourself feeling just so confused. What's actually true? What's not? Does intuitive eating work? Is it healthy? So in this video, I want to go over what the most Googled intuitive eating questions seem to be and share my answers to them. If you're new here, hello and welcome. My name is Hannah. I am a non-diet dietitian who specializes in intuitive eating and helping people recover from disordered eating. So I know a thing or two about intuitive eating, and I am here to answer the internet's biggest questions. One of the biggest questions I see Googled about intuitive eating, and I also get it a lot in my comments and in my DMs, is can you lose weight with intuitive eating? I have a whole video right here where I go into depth answering this question, and it's no surprise that this does seem to be the most Googled intuitive eating question, aside from just like, what is intuitive eating? We live in such a weight-focused world that of course people feel nervous to adopt the intuitive eating principles if they're not sure what's gonna happen to their weight. In fact, that fear of gaining weight is often what leaves people in that diet cycle where they're just going from one diet to the next. And intuitive eating is a weight neutral approach. This means that when we are focusing on intuitive eating, we remove our focus from that number on the scale and focus more on our internal hunger and fullness cues and food wisdom. So if you're someone who has always been focused on weight loss, this might seem like a big leap, a very scary jump to take. So I want to say here that if you do have that desire to lose weight, that does not mean that you can't work towards intuitive eating, because intuitive eating is a journey, not a destination. I will say, however, that intuitive eating cannot be used as an intentional weight loss approach. Because like I said, when we focus on our weight, an external piece of information, that makes it really tough to tune into our internal cues. Weighing yourself and getting on the scale is only going to take you backwards when you are trying to move forward with improving your relationship with food. So will you lose weight with intuitive eating? The short answer is maybe. Some people do lose weight when they adopt intuitive eating, but we cannot use intuitive eating as a weight loss approach because not everybody has that same result. Some do lose weight, but others may gain weight, others may maintain their weight. Usually what happens is we kind of go through all three scenarios as our weight fluctuates to find its best set point weight. So I know it's easier said than done, but we need to let go of that desire for weight loss if we are truly going to pursue intuitive eating. And again, these thoughts of weight loss will continue to pop up and kind of linger in your mind. But as you build trust with your body and learn to eat without rules, those thoughts will be few and far between. And you will learn how to tackle those thoughts, overcome those thoughts, instead of always succumbing to them. All right, the next question that is often Googled about intuitive eating is intuitive eating healthy? I'm also not surprised by this question because the way intuitive eating is often portrayed is just people eating donuts and cake and cookies. In fact, I myself tend to portray that a lot on my social media to kind of paint the picture that it's okay to eat these foods. But does this mean that that is all that intuitive eating is? Is it just eating those types of foods? Absolutely not. In fact, there's an entire principle 10 of intuitive eating, which is to honor your health with gentle nutrition. This principle is all about finding the balance between your body's wants and needs, which it's absolutely okay to honor, as well as utilizing your nutrition knowledge. So basically, it is making choices for our body that we know are going to make it feel good. Sometimes this will be choosing the pizza, the cake, the donut, the ice cream. Other times it will be choosing the salad, the veggies, the whole grains. Usually it's going to be a combination of the two. And just because intuitive eating is an anti-diet approach, this does not mean that it's anti-health. We just need to remember that our health is so much more than just our weight. It is so much more than just our food choices. Health also includes mental health, and we know that dieting is not so great for our mental health. You can be eating the most nutrient-dense, healthy foods in the world, but if that is causing you tons of stress or it is leading to the development of an eating disorder, that's not health. We gotta look big picture here. And there are quite a few ways that intuitive eating can be health promoting in that big picture look of things. In fact, there are lots of studies that support the use of intuitive eating for health promotion. One way that intuitive eating is health promoting is that it promotes care and respect for all bodies, not just thin bodies. Intuitive eating rejects the pathologizing of particular body shapes and sizes. This means that we can't look at somebody and know if they are healthy or not. Health isn't a look, it's not a body size. And when people do that, whether it's in a healthcare setting or friends and family making comments about body size, this weight stigma, this weight bias can lead to increased stress. And we know that stress is no good for the body. And in a healthcare setting, if someone feels like their weight is always standing in the way of them receiving proper care, they might just stop going to the doctor altogether. So if they have health issues that need resolving, they won't work on resolving them because they don't want to go to the doctor and just receive all this bias towards them because of their size. So along with removing that idea that our weight is equal to our health, intuitive eating does also promote health promoting behavior changes, because health promoting behavior changes are what can help improve your health, not weight loss. Weight loss may happen as you are incorporating these behavior changes, but when that does happen, we cannot say that your health improved because of that weight loss. It improved because of those changes that you made. So if someone starts eating more intuitively and they are no longer binge eating, or they are no longer doing restrictive diets, they may now find themselves eating more fruits and vegetables. They may be incorporating more joyful movement on a regular basis versus like crash exercising. They're now eating consistently, so they're no longer skipping meals and then binge eating at that subsequent meal later in the day. And again, for some people, weight loss may happen here, but that's not always going to be the case. It totally depends on where they are at in relation to their body's set point weight. So if you are wanting to improve your health and you also are wanting to ditch the diets and do more of an intuitive eating type of approach, focus on those behavior changes versus just that number on the scale. All right, the next popular Googled question is, why is intuitive eating controversial? This one I found kind of funny because it's so true. Intuitive eating is so controversial. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be making this video. And it never fails that anytime I make a video about intuitive eating that goes kind of viral, the comments are always flooded with people saying that
intuitive eating is just a way to cope. Intuitive eating isn't evidence-based.
My videos are just
promoting obesity.
And honestly, I can't really even blame the commenters for thinking this way. This is how I felt about the non-diet intuitive eating approach before I learned more about it. We are so deep in diet culture that we see any other form of eating that isn't restrictive as just like so far out there that it can't possibly be the best thing to do. And I am not here to say what is best for you watching this, but I will say that intuitive eating is going to be a really great non-diet approach for a lot of people, because we know that dieting does not work, at least not in the long term. So I think that's a big reason why intuitive eating is so controversial, is because it is not promoting weight loss like every other nutrition, healthy eating program does. There's no rules, there's no meal plan, there's no like tracking you have to do. And so it just seems so opposite of what we're used to. Another reason why I think intuitive eating is so controversial is because of the privilege that comes with being able to do intuitive eating. Now, I'm not sure if this is what the Googlers meant when they were typing in this question, but I do want to point out that being able to do intuitive eating, so to speak, does come with a lot of privilege. For example, we talk a lot about honoring our cravings with intuitive eating. So if you have a hankering for some mint chocolate chip ice cream, you allow yourself to eat that mint chocolate chip ice cream. But if you don't have access to the types of foods that you're craving when you're craving them, it may make it feel really hard to do intuitive eating the way you're supposed to. Does that make sense? Being able to have access to food, any and all foods, technically whenever you want them, is a privilege. Not everyone has that privilege. Being financially secure enough to do that, having the time in your day and the brain space to actually like focus on improving that relationship with food, also a privilege. Intuitive eating requires a lot of self-work, and not everybody has the time or ability to always do all of that. So while I really do encourage taking time for yourself and spending that time healing your relationship with food, I totally do get how it can feel really out of reach. So this is where I say that intuitive eating is going to look different for every single person. And once again, it is a journey, not a destination. I think it is so important to take time for yourself, but the degree to which you do that may look different than someone else who has more time for themselves, for example. All right, next very popular Googled question about intuitive eating is, how long will it take to see results from intuitive eating? I know y'all are gonna hate this answer, but It depends. It depends on how you define results. Are your results rooted in weight management? If so, it may take a long time for you to see results with intuitive eating because, like I said, it's not a weight loss approach. Are you looking for results in terms of improving your relationship with food? If that's the case, it really depends on your starting point before you get into all of this. If you have a really, really negative relationship with food, it's going to take a little bit longer to get to that place where you feel like you have that food freedom. So what I challenge you to think about with this one is, how can I shift my perspective from getting results, reaching an end goal, getting the best grade on this intuitive eating exam, to just using it as a chance to reflect and think about things and grow and learn. You'll know when you get to that place where you have that food freedom that you're looking for. And there's no way to know when that will be. So why don't we just focus on that in-between stuff? Next question, can you count calories with intuitive eating? As a past calorie counter myself, I totally get where this question comes from. The short answer, however, is no. You cannot count calories while pursuing intuitive eating. If you want to count calories, that's your choice. I'm not saying nobody can ever count calories. What I am saying is that intuitive eating does not involve any sort of tracking, counting, measuring your food, none of that. Because sort of like focusing on that number on the scale, if we are focusing on a number of calories, grams of carbs, fat, protein, we are tracking, measuring, whatever, some sort of external piece of information, we are just going to subconsciously use that to make our food choices instead of tuning into what our body actually needs. For example, if you feel like you are still hungry, but MyFitnessPal says you are out of calories for the day, you might ignore that hunger cue because the app told you to. That's not intuitive eating. Whenever I talk about calorie counting, I always get so many comments saying how it's what works for them, they gotta ensure they're in that calorie deficit, and if you want to do that, that is your prerogative, that is your choice. You get to do whatever you want. I am just here to say that calorie counting and intuitive eating cannot coexist. And there are a lot of cases where calorie counting is negatively impacting people's relationships with food. If you're not sure if that's happening to you, look inward, reflect, think about how it is impacting you, and just see if you're finding it to be a positive experience or not. Once again, I'm not here to say if it is or isn't. I am just here to say that it might be. It tends to be. In my own experience, calorie counting was a one-way ticket to disordered eating habits. I was over-exercising, I was under-eating, all in the name of health. And all it really did was lead to me having a terrible relationship with food. I do have another video about calorie counting right here that I will link below. One final popular question that is Googled about intuitive eating is, will intuitive eating help me recover from binge eating? Once again, I have an entire video on this. I will link it below, and I do encourage watching that whole video, especially if you are someone who struggles with binge eating disorder. While the treatment of binge eating disorder really needs to happen under the care of a healthcare team, and the approach for every single person is unique, I will say here that intuitive eating may be able to help with binge eating. One way intuitive eating really helps with binge eating is by helping you honor your hunger. A really big culprit of binge eating is skipping meals all day long and then getting into the end of the day feeling starving. You're undernourished, and so of course your body's urgency to eat leads to binge type eating. And because of this routine of not eating all day and only eating at night is happening on such a routine basis, you may have lost touch with what your hunger cues even are. So intuitive eating is about relearning what those hunger cues feel like for you. And once we learn what hunger feels like and we are able to honor that hunger, there tends to be less binge eating episodes. Another way that intuitive eating may help with preventing binge eating is by teaching you to incorporate your fear foods. Principle 3 of intuitive eating is to make peace with food, and this principle involves incorporating those fear foods or previously deemed off-limits foods. Because when a food is off-limits in our mind, we tend to have a higher likelihood of binging on that food. And principle 9 of intuitive eating is all about incorporating what's known as joyful movement. And this gentle, joyful movement can also help prevent binges and make us feel better when we do binge. Again, if you do struggle with binge eating disorder, I recommend reaching out for support. You do not have to try to recover on your own. So those are some of of the top Googled intuitive eating questions. I know you might have others, so be sure to leave them in the comments below and I can always make more videos. As you guys know, I talk about intuitive eating all the time, so I'm happy to keep this conversation going. Make sure you like this video if you enjoyed it, if you learned something new, and don't forget to subscribe so you always know when I'm posting new videos like this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.